What's up, guys? I'm DK, and you're watching Pro Wrestling What If, the series where I look at the different what if scenarios as terms of the world that we call professional wrestling. This weekend is the 2025 Money in the Bank Premium Live event, and it was exactly 20 years ago this year that the inaugural Money in the Bank ladder match had taken place at WrestleMania 21. The match had featured Chris Benoit, Kane, Christian, Edge, Shelton Benjamin, and Chris Jericho as participants. Edge would end up winning the match and go on to develop feuds with Kane and Matt Hardy in 2005, with Lita as his manager to develop his new rated R superstar persona. After being injured for a few months and having an Intercontinental Championship feud with Ric Flair, Edge would cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase at New Year's Revolution 2006, doing so after John Cena's grueling Elimination Chamber match that he had defended the WWE Championship in, leading to Edge being successful in doing the very first Money in the Bank cash-in in WWE history and becoming the new WWE Champion. A WWE Championship reign that would only last a few weeks, as he would drop it back to John Cena at Royal Rumble, and their rematch wouldn't take place at WrestleMania. Instead, Edge would go on to have a hardcore match with Mick Foley at the event, with the memorable flaming table spot that still elevated him. But imagine a world where Edge wasn't the one to win the very first Money in the Bank ladder match 20 years ago. So that's going to be the topic of today's video. We're discussing what if the first Money in the Bank winner was different. For this video, I'll be going through the other 5 participants and discuss when each individual will be able to cash in the Money in the Bank briefcase, whether it be before or after when Edge had cashed in. And if you end up enjoying this video, don't forget to hit that like button, share this to all your friends, subscribe, and press the notification bell for when future episodes get released, and leave a comment down below about today's topic or suggesting a future topic for an episode of Pro Wrestling What If. So participant number 1 we're talking about is Kane. So I'm kicking off with Kane because in my opinion he would be the least likely to win this match, which is unfortunate since his only world championship reign he had prior to this match was back in 1998 at King of the Ring. Although he defeated Stone Cold Steve Austin for that title, he would drop it back to him the following night on Raw, having only held it for 24 hours. The original plans for the Money in the Bank ladder match didn't even include Kane because he was originally going to team up with Undertaker to take on Snitsky and Heidenreich, a match that was even teased during the Royal Rumble a few months prior during Undertaker's casket match with Heidenreich, until it was scrapped in favor of Undertaker versus Randy Orton, which was for the best. Now I will say that for this video, regardless of who wins the Money in the Bank briefcase, they will be in a scenario of a successful cash-in. Just like I mentioned in last week's video, had the first Money in the Bank winner failed, WWE would have probably scrapped the concept and we wouldn't be talking about Money in the Bank 20 plus years later. Kane in 2005 was on the Raw brand, which would give him a small window to cash in on Batista for the World Heavyweight Championship, or wait until John Cena gets drafted to Raw, which may or may not be the topic of next week's video, and cash in on the WWE Championship. I think Kane would end up successfully cashing in on Batista after his grueling Hell in a Cell match against Triple H at Vengeance 2005. However, I think this would be to only repeat 1998 all over again by having Batista win back the World Heavyweight Championship the following night on Raw. That way, Batista, when he inevitably gets drafted to the SmackDown brand, brings the World Heavyweight Championship with him. Kane cashing in on John Cena's WWE Championship screams that it would be a failed cash-in for him. Next up, we have ourselves Christian. Now, throughout the prior year of 2004, Christian was barely doing anything besides feuding with Chris Jericho and floating around the mid-card scene. Although it seems likely for Christian to win this type of match with the prior experience teaming with Edge, who had won the match, we all know that Vince McMahon was never really a fan of Christian and wouldn't have put him in this position at the time. However, if Christian was the first Money in the Bank winner, this might have had him re-sign with the WWE in late 2005 2005 and not go to TNA. Christian had gotten drafted to the SmackDown brand in 2005, so throughout his entire run as Mr. Money in the Bank, his target would have always been Batista and the World Heavyweight Championship, unlike what I mentioned about Kane. I think just like Edge's cash-in, it would have happened very close to when the contract was set to expire, even having him not cash in yet in order for Christian to re-sign with the company. Batista would suffer an injury and vacate the World Heavyweight Championship in January of 2006, resulting in a battle royal to determine a new champion. The match would end up being won by Kurt Angle, who had switched from Raw to SmackDown, but whether it's still Kurt Angle or not that's winning the title, I think Christian would cash in the Money in the Bank briefcase and win the World Heavyweight Championship after the conclusion of the Battle Royal. Once again, just like Edge, Christian's reign as champion would be short-term as he would drop it before WrestleMania 22, then WWE would likely put him as one of the competitors of the next Money in the Bank ladder match at the event. Shelton Benjamin, the true MVP of the Money in the Bank ladder match for pretty much the first 5 years of its existence, as he competed in almost every match until 2010. After having a great tag team run on SmackDown in 2003, he would be set for a big singles push when getting drafted to Raw in 2004, defeating the likes of Ric Flair in his first pay-per-view match on the brand, and even winning his first Intercontinental Championship from Chris Jericho later that year at Taboo Tuesday. A championship he would even hold going into his first Money in the Bank ladder match and would lose it to Carlito a couple months later. I think if we had Shelton Benjamin as the Money in the Bank winner in 2005, there's a couple of things that might have not happened throughout the next year. The first would be potentially missing out on that famous Sweet Chin music spot with Shawn Michaels, as Shelton Benjamin might have been put in some sort of rivalry preventing that match from happening. Second would be that the storyline involving Shelton Benjamin and his mama wouldn't have happened, as she was brought in while he was on a losing streak. As the Money in the Bank winner, Shelton Benjamin would have had many wins as WWE preps him for the eventual world title win, just like they did with Edge throughout 2005. The only place I think Shelton Benjamin would successfully cash in is exactly the same time as Edge at New Year's Revolution 2006, after John Cena retains the WWE Championship inside the Elimination Chamber. Once again, just like Edge, Shelton Benjamin would have dropped the title back to John Cena a few weeks later at Royal Rumble. That way, WWE would still be able to set up Triple H versus John Cena in the main event of WrestleMania 22 to cement John Cena's main event status, while Shelton Benjamin, just like in the real timeline, would compete in the Money in the Bank ladder match that same night. Shoutout goes to Jackson Weingart, Jada Sanchez, Fox Starkiller, Lola Pines, Hayden Saravo, Mr. Randomizer, Harry Dynamite Storm, Skullchin, Spidey Fan Productions 2003, and Wesley Conklin. And the reason that they ended up getting a shout out is because they joined our YouTube channel membership, which only cost $1.99 a month. Not only do you get the shout out, but you do get lots of other perks, including early access to every single video and shorts that we produce on this channel. So definitely consider joining our YouTube channel membership. It will be greatly appreciated and will go a long way of helping out this channel a lot. So definitely consider it, but let's get right back to the video. Y2J Chris Jericho. Both in storyline and in real life, Chris Jericho had created the concept of the Money in the Bank ladder match. So in a way, it would make sense for him to have been the first Money in the Bank winner as a way to get him back into the World Championship scene. Just like Christian, Chris Jericho's WWE contract was also coming to an end in 2005, but in the summer instead of late fall. Chris Jericho being booked as Mr. Money in the Bank might have been a way for WWE to try and get him to re-sign with the company, especially if he cashed in successfully before the contract expires. When it comes to Vengeance 2005, we would have ended up having a singles match between Christian and John Cena for the WWE Championship, which was a factor that could have led to Christian re-signing. At least for the build, as I think WWE might have had Chris Jericho cash in the briefcase during the match to still have the triple threat match we had in the real timeline, resulting in Chris Jericho becoming the new WWE champion by pinning Christian to do so and not having John Cena take the fall. Still leading to the same John Cena Chris Jericho match we had at SummerSlam, but with Chris Jericho walking in as the champion instead of John Cena. Due to the fact that Chris Jericho was set on not wanting to re-sign due to being burnt out, he would drop the WWE Championship during that match back to John Cena, still having the same match the following night on Raw that wrote him off WWE to explain his departure from the company. Chris Jericho leaving in 2005 was probably the best thing for him, as he would have time to join acting classes and develop skills utilized when he returned in 2007, developing the suit and tie Chris Jericho persona in 2008 that completely reinvented his career and would be able to constantly reinvent himself whenever he needed to, which I don't think he would have been able to do had he not left in 2005. And the fifth and final participant is Chris Benoit. Chris Benoit had been pushed as a single star since the moment he arrived in January of 2000 as a part of the Radicals. Although his career was put on hold for over a year while recovering from neck surgery, he would end up coming back still putting on match of the night contenders like his Royal Rumble 2003 match against Kurt Angle for the WWE Championship. A match many people consider to be the greatest non-WrestleMania World Championship match that I believe had propelled him into winning the Royal Rumble the following year and winning his first World Championship at WrestleMania 20. Just like Christian, Chris Benoit would end up getting drafted to the SmackDown brand in 2005, having him set his sights on the same World Championship he had previously won. While Batista was World Heavyweight Champion, it was rumored that Eddie Guerrero was going to be the one to take the title off of him. If Chris Benoit was Mr. Money in the Bank, perhaps they would have saved his cash-in to have a big feud between Benoit and Guerrero over the World Heavyweight Championship. However, we had the unfortunate passing of Eddie Guerrero on November 13th, 2005, which would scrap plans for another Eddie Guerrero world title reign. I think the time to have had a successful cash-in would be to do a pre-announced cash-in and challenge Batista for the World Heavyweight Championship on the November 18th, 2005 episode of SmackDown that was the continuation of the Eddie Guerrero tribute show that started on Raw earlier in the week, dedicating the match and winning the World Heavyweight Championship once again in honor of his real-life best friend. Batista at this time was dealing with an injury, and perhaps this match would have been the way to get the title off of him and have him take time off. If Chris Benoit had cashed in this way, it's a bit uncertain if WWE would have booked Rey Mysterio to win the 2006 Royal Rumble and go on to win the World Heavyweight Championship with the same purpose. However, I can see a world where we still get the same triple threat match at WrestleMania 22, but replacing Kurt Angle with Chris Benoit to have the match feature two of Eddie Guerrero's best friends. With Kurt Angle not being a part of that match could mean that for his match at WrestleMania 22, we would have actually had the dream WrestleMania bout between Kurt Angle and The Undertaker that we ended up getting a month early at No Way Out 2006.